Hi, this is Clinton Ma from Six-Eyed Studio. Welcome to the first episode of the development blog for my first independently produced game, FLAK. With this video being posted on a Friday, I'm going to be calling these vlogs FLAK Fridays from now on. I hope to run at least a few of these in the coming weeks leading up to the game's completion. The plan is to submit FLAK by later this month, spend another 1 to 2 weeks for tuning and fixes, and then tie the bow on this project by early March 2015. But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. What is this game called FLAK? You are looking at the main menu for the game now. I hope the background image paints a vivid enough picture and helps to set up the backstory. In FLAK, you play as a notorious space pirate by the name of Felicia Finian, and you've just broken out of a maximum security prison located out on a distant alien planet. You've hijacked a hoverbike with which to make your escape, and now you're running for your life. You have to use your speed, reflexes, and heavy weaponry to avoid capture. The keepers of the prison and a collection of the galaxy's deadliest bounty hunters are out for your blood. So FLAK is an endless pursuit, top-down 2D shoot-'em-up about speed, survival, and the thrill of evading your enemies and watching them smash into things at high velocity. How long can you outrun the law before you yourself meet a glorious, fiery death? Designers often like to talk about design pillars. These are the fundamental concepts that drive gameplay. For FLAK, I've attempted to summarize the experience of playing the game with 3 words: speed, survival, and sabotage. The game is a hybrid of the traditional top-down scrolling shooter and the endless runner that's become so popular these last several years. The game sees you traveling slowly at the start, but rapidly accelerates beyond your control. There's no end to the game, so there is a tragic inevitability to each play session. But in tragedy, there is also triumph. That's where the sabotage bit comes in. And when I talk about sabotage, I'm talking more about things not going according to plan. If you think about your favorite chase scenes, whether it be in film, literature, or games, what are the elements that make them awesome? My touchstones were pretty clear. I thought about the confined space and high stakes of the Death Star trench run in Star Wars. I fondly remembered the speed and chaos of the speeder bike chase between the Ewoks and Scout Troopers in Return of the Jedi. Some of my best gaming memories are from Grand Theft Auto Vice City, as I chased down assassination targets, or was being chased by the police, or both at the same time, as was often the case. There is an edge of control intensity to all of these experiences, as the actors in the chase struggle to maintain control and exert their will on the situation, and yet the window for making the best possible decision at any given moment is measured in fractions of a second. Not by coincidence, this is often the experience I get from playing traditional top-down shooters and endless runners. So before I keep babbling on about the game without showing you anything, I'd like to start up some gameplay now and show you where the game is at, as well as lay out a roadmap for what's to come. So here we're starting our run. There's Felicia riding her hoverbike, and as you can see, the world where the maximum security prison is located is a pretty barren, depressing place. The main mechanics in the game are, of course, moving around with the directional keys. You can also fire your cannons in front and behind you. All of the enemies are giving chase, so they're all going to be showing up from the bottom of the screen. So you can bet you'll be firing behind you a whole lot. But it's also important to fire forwards, as you'll see later in the gameplay. I've gone with a very retro 3 lives system. Any contact with the environment, an enemy, or any enemy projectile will instantly kill you, and you'll respawn a second later if you have a life available. Your run ends after you've lost all 3 lives. You may have noticed some debris flying around, and coming into contact with that stuff will also end your day quickly. This debris comes from dying enemies, and the game gets very difficult if you have too much debris flying around. I'll explain how this mechanic works. if you blast an enemy into space dust, they will explode and you will earn some points. This is a clean kill. However, if an enemy decides to bumble into the environment or another enemy type, this causes a ruckus. They still die, but the explosion is a lot messier as it kicks up a bunch of lethal flying fragments through the air. And you don't get points added to your score when enemies accidentally suicide like this. Enemies hit by debris will explode and also produce even more debris, so it's not uncommon to have a very dangerous chain reaction of explosions on the screen. This play concept originated from the idea that different factions of bounty hunters are after you. While their goal is the same, these enemies are also at odds with each other because they each want the credit for taking you down, dead or alive. So that gave birth to this simple affinity system where like enemies do not harm each other, but their attacks on and collisions with unlike enemies are often lethal. There are some exceptions to this rule, and you can probably pick those out as you watch the gameplay. So I'm trying to create this dynamic of controlled chaos with you as the player desperately running away from your pursuers. But you're far from helpless, of course. You've got guns and power-ups to take it to your enemies. It's in your best interest to blast everything in sight, but there's a risk to lining up that perfect shot every time. You've got to watch where you're going, right? You don't want to crash into an incoming obstacle. But every enemy you let slide leaves open an opportunity for them to kill you, or be killed themselves and spray hot fiery death everywhere. So you've got to be ready to deal with that on the fly. So far I haven't been playing very well, but at least I can show how difficult the game can be. Once you're able to consistently last for a minute or two, I want you to keep playing to chase those high scores. The scoring is still up for a lot of tuning, and I still think the excitement level needs to be ramped up in those first 15 to 20 seconds of a run. But these are balance topics that I'll revisit in a future episode. I'll transition to some more gameplay where I last a bit longer on my runs, and you can see more of the play mechanics working in unison. This will also give you a chance to to explain a few more things. The yellow and black construction roadblocks are the only static obstacles you can destroy with your weapons. As with enemies, these roadblocks have a chance of dropping a random power-up when they are destroyed. Roadblocks appear randomly as well, but they usually coincide with specific obstacle patterns, so once you get a feel for when they show up, you can start firing forwards to not only get them out of your way sooner, but to increase your odds of powering yourself up. There are 6 main power-ups in FLAK. They all last about 10 seconds right now, and you can reset the timer by picking up more of the same before it expires. Early in the video you saw Spread Shot, which adds diagonal cannons. Then there's the Bubble Shield, which protects you from enemy fire and collisions, but you'll still wreck when you hit obstacles. Side Shot adds lateral firing cannons, which really comes in handy when those big red twins arrive on the scene. Death's Head is the classic screen wipe that will destroy all enemies on screen. FLAK Shot is a weird one right now. Your bullets change color slightly, and if they hit the environment, they have a chance of bursting into shrapnel that bounces around a bit. This shrapnel destroys enemies on contact and gets you a clean kill, but having all this extra stuff flying around on screen creates visual noise, and that may make it difficult for you to navigate. The final power-up is the landmine, which I still have yet to implement. When activated, you will drop a landmine behind you every couple seconds, and that will detonate after a second or so, or when it comes into contact with another object. As with FLAK Shot, I wish I would have prototyped this power-up sooner, but for now they are both fun ideas that may or may not work to increase the overall enjoyment of the game. We'll just have to see. So I think I'm about ready to wrap up this first episode of FLAK Friday. I had wanted to do a lot of user interface work this week, but ended up spending more time fixing bugs and firming up some nagging gameplay issues that needed to be settled. I'd also spent a lot of time adding in final art assets, but there's still quite a bit that needs to get done. For next week's episode, I want to show you more of the game's front end. There isn't a lot to it, but I have one remaining event that triggers at the end of each run. You may have noticed some of these yellow coins with a black star printed on them. Well, those are a special type of pickup that comes into play after you've lost all 3 of your lives. I'll probably be talking more about that next time. Other than that, there's going to be more general polish thrown in. I'll change up the heads-up display when you're in-game. I'll have some indicators for how long your power-ups are going to stay active. And yes, I'll be showing you those landmines in action. So that's about it for me. Thanks so much for checking out this first look at FLAK. If you have any questions or comments about the game or this video, please feel free to leave a note here on YouTube. I will also leave some contact information in the description below, so you have a way to reach me via social media and all that good stuff. Thank you again for watching. See you all next time.